warm-up session like they do for the
I think you need to
shows?
say what day it is.
Introduction.
Yeah, should we do an introduction? Or you
Sure. Go ahead, Dad. What's the introduction? What day is it
Okay.
today?
The introduction is August the 31st, 2008. Anna's in her 95th year, and she's going to recall the good old. She's 94 in her 95th year.
Working on 95, right?
She's going to recall.
When is that party?
Recall those good old days. May they never come again. Huh? Okay, you're going to tell us a little poem from the good old days.
Okay.
This is her poem that she made up.
She wrote it. Yep.
I call it the Chamber Potalus.
Chamber Potalus.
And this is a real experience that she had.
It was early in the morning on a bright summer day. There were cows to be milked and work in the hay. But I was sleeping upstairs in my bed. I had no thoughts of working, only dreams in my head. Suddenly the stair door opened and Mother called up to me. "Anna, it's time to get up and bring the pots," said she. Now the vessel she mentioned stood in the hall, and it was a comfort station for the large to the small. So I put on my blue bibs, my guard for the day, and started for the hall to get my job underway. The family-sized pot was full to the brim, but I tackled the job with somewhat of a vim. I started down the stairs with a spring in my step. There was work to be done, and I must show pet. But as I rounded the turn, oh, mercy on me, I tripped and fell, and the pot's contents spilled free. Now, it wasn't false pride or a haughty spirit that made me fall. It was that darn ragged cuff on my overalls that caused the big sprawl. Mother heard the commotion and rushed to the door. Everything tumbled out on the clean kitchen floor.
Oh.
Mother stood there in shock. Then her voice came with a quiver. "Anna, this place will smell like an outhouse forever." Now that wasn't quite what she said, but she was upset and in a huff. So to make this poem acceptable, we'll say that's close enough. She didn't ask about broken bones or bruises or cuts. She just said, "You clean up this mess." And brother, that took guts. I mopped and I scrubbed, but as you might suppose, I couldn't make that place smell like a rose. Now beneath the stairs, in the cellar, there stood a large sack of white sugar to make things taste good. That fall, the sack was opened, and to our surprise, some tiny little yellow lumps greeted our eyes. Now those little yellow lumps in the sack at the top were the right size and color, but they weren't lemon drops. I suppose you wonder what became of the pot that rolled down the stairs and looked a bit shot. Well, it still stood in the hall for many a year to make it more pleasant for we folks that lived there. But in time, plumbing was installed in the house, and the old pot was retired. It's deserved rest to a spouse. Years and years later, when the old home was sold, every nook and cranny was searched for treasures and gold. And there stood that treasure up on the shelf, standing there all alone, just resting itself. My sisters giggled and laughed and thought it great fun to give it to me, and so it was done. It didn't offend me. It should be mine, I thought. Somehow I had a natural affection for that old pot. Now it has a place of honor in my house of yesteryear. It is a prized possession, It is an heirloom to revere. Oh, it's battered and old and rusty, but it has a mystique charm, it's true. And now I'm happy and proud and honored to show this dear old pot to you. Now, if ever it is used as a planter, I would have one suggestion, please. Plant some flowers with a fragrance. I'm thinking it should be sweet peas. Carl used to have some lemon drops in here. I wonder if I ate them.
Oh, wow.
The real pot.
That's the pot, huh?
That's the actual pot from that story.
That you took a tumble with. Woo, careful, Dad's gonna take a tumble.
The lid was missing, and I found that one down the DI, and it doesn't fit quite exactly.
It's got some tape over a couple of the holes.
Yeah.
I hope those weren't there then.
No, they weren't there.
Right.
Now, what do you want me to tell them about my ailments?
Sure.
No, I kind of exaggerate this a little bit, but it's mostly true.
Okay.
So you can decide what's true and what isn't. I call it my dilemma.
Your dilemma, okay.
Life isn't what it used to be. I've lost most all my old friends. The price of serenities has gone up, also Metamucil and Depends. My eyes are bad, my teeth are too, so I can't see very well, and my teeth hurt when I chew. I have corns and bunions on my toes and feet, so it makes it hard to grin when I'm walking down the street. I have other problems too that give me pain. My nose and sinuses are clogged up. They're on the fritz again. I sure do get discouraged, and there's a reason why I should. When my sinuses are clogged up, I don't smell very good. For years, I've had arthritis in almost all my joints. Now, rheumatism has set in on all other crucial points. I have yuck in my throat, I can hardly speak. I think I might say, no paddle, and I'm up the creek. I think I have insomnia. I'm not sleeping very well. I'd like to pack up all my troubles and send them right to hell. Seems like what isn't broke won't work, and this I can't abide. To have a worn out old body and a young spirit trapped inside. I'm 94 years old, so my times are running low. Where are those golden years? I'd really like to know. I can't tell where I am or where I've just been. So move over, Paul, because I'm a coming in.
I haven't heard that one.
Oh, you haven't?
I haven't.
Yes, you have.
Oh my yes, I don't think so.
Tell the one about the eye clinic.
Oh,
I like that one.
I don't know if I can do that or not. I can do the aprons and memories.
Oh, do aprons. I have to get out my handkerchief.
This is called aprons and memories.
Aprons and memories, okay.
When I think of the word apron, I think of my mother too. She always wore an apron. Some were old and some were new. Nowadays, the word apron is almost obsolete. In the days of yesteryear, without one, an attire was not complete. There were many kinds of aprons. Each one had its place. Some were made of percale or gingham, others of organdy and lace. Also, there were many aprons made from flour or sugar sacks. They were really quite attractive, trimmed with rickrack, with bias tape and colorful rickrack. Of all the many aprons, there was one I liked the best. It was Mother's coverall everyday apron. It was more useful than the rest. If she went to the orchard for apples or eggs from the chicken coop, if she needed kindling from the woodpile or vegetables from the garden for soup, she'd just gather up the bottom of her apron and presto, she had a container there. It was really very useful any time or anywhere. An apron was a must in the kitchen where she practiced her culinary arts. She prepared delicious meals for us to fill our tummies and to warm our very hearts. She always put on a clean apron when she served her daily meals to family, friends, or passers-by, and also to men from the fields. Mother's apron could be a cover-up. Sometimes there was a secret beneath its folds, but what that secret was, we children were never told. One day, Dad would shuttle us off to the neighbors. He said we might play for a while. Then when he came for us, on his face was a great big smile. He said there was a surprise for us, so we hurried home to see, and there, cradled in Mother's arms, was a sweet little new baby. Mother's apron also had healing powers. When I was hurt or feeling sad, she'd cuddle me with her apron, and then things didn't seem so bad. And the last part of that healing power I remember through the years was when, with the corner of her apron, she wiped away my tears. Now, when I think of Mother and her aprons, it is like a sweet refrain. Although Mother and her aprons are gone now, those fond memories will always remain.
That's fantastic. It reminds me of my mother and her aprons.
Well, I'll try that maybe, but
Yeah,
I
that's
need one tooth blacked out and a funny old hat on or something like that to do this one though.
What's that one? The
The
eye clinic?
Yes.
Okay. We'll imagine the blacked out tooth and stuff.
So I look a little bit stupid.
Oh, you'll pass.
Oh. Oh.
Well, I have this trouble with my eyes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So my daughter got me an appointment with somebody down in Salt Lake City, and she called it the Moran Eye Clinic, but I know very well it was the Moron Clinic.
Eye
down
Clinic?
there. Yeah.
Why is that?
Now that trip to Salt Lake, it was something else. I'm telling you, those cars were just dashing past us this way and that, and on all sides, and I just didn't know whether we'd ever make it there to Salt Lake City or not. But we made it there, and we went up to this building and went to go in the door, and it opened and then it shut and it opened and it shut, and I stood there and I felt like I was kind of dizzy, and finally my daughter says to me, when you see it opening, you just jump in there. So I jumped as hard as I could, and I got in it, and it whirled us around right to the other side. And then she said, jump out, and I jumped out, and it sure did seem good to be on firm footing again. Well, then she took me down this long hallway. It was a fur piece down along that hallway.
Oh, yeah.
And we finally came to a lady. She was sitting by a desk, and she acted so happy to see us. And she said to me, will you have a chair? Well, I didn't want her chair, but so I didn't take her chair. But But I wanted to sit down. I was kind of tuckered out, so I sat in her chair, and she started asking me questions. She asked me about how old I was and about my parents, and then she got kind of personal. She asked me about sex, and then she asked me if I was pregnant, and I didn't say anything, but my daughter, she said something, and so this lady, she scribbled something on the paper there, and I sure was glad I didn't have to confess anything. So then when she got through asking me all the questions she could think of, then there was this nurse lady came along, got a hold of my arm, and she started taking me down the hallway, and I sure was glad my daughter was along, because I was kind of scared, and when we got part way down the hall, why, she said to me, "Would you like the restroom?" And I said, "Oh, no, thank you. I have a privy at home." So then she took me into this room, and there was some boxes hanging on the wall there, and she said to me, "Take off your clothes." And I was kind of bashful about doing that, and then I decided I guess I'd got in one of those places, those strip places they talked about down in Salt Lake City. So I thought I was there, I better strip off my clothes, so I took them off. And she took them, she put them in one of those boxes, and she locked the box. Well, I was standing there all stark naked, and I guess she thought I was a little bit bashful, so she got this big old nightgown and handed it to me. And I was trying to tie it in the front, and she said, "No, I was supposed to tie it in the back." And so she and my daughter helped, and they tied it up in the back, and then she got a hold of my arm, and she started taking me down the hall again. Well, I guess there must have been a door or a window open or something, because it felt kind of breezy from behind. Well, she took me in a room, and there were people laying all around on beds in there. She came to an empty bed, and she said, "Get up on this bed." So I jumped a little bit and got up on the bed, and she said to lay down, and then it came to me, I was at a slumber party. So I thought, well, I better get to sleep. So I shut my eyes and tried to go to sleep. I faked it though, and pretty soon she came, and she opened one of my eyes, and she dropped something in it, and then so I kept my eyes shut, and she did that several times. I guess she was checking to see if I was asleep or not. And then pretty soon I could feel that bed moving, and I kind of peeked out, and sure enough I could see that it was moving. And she took me into this other room, and and I could tell there was a man and a woman in there, because I could hear them talking, and this man said to me, "Now, this will only take about 15 minutes. And I really didn't know what he was talking about, but then I could feel that he was poking in my eye. I couldn't feel anything, but he said, "Now you lay still." I'd like to have fidgeted a little bit. I felt like fidgeting, but I didn't fidget none because he told me not to. Well, in about 15 minutes, he said, "It's all done." And I just didn't know what he'd done, but he said it was all done. And then that nurse lady started pushing my bed around again, and she pushed me into a room, and she said, "Would you like something to drink?" And I said, "Yes, I'd like something to drink." And she brought me this little old glass of orange juice. It wasn't very much, so I just drank it down fast, because I know she'd soon be bringing me a nice dinner, because they'd told me not to eat before I came. Well, I laid there for a while, and pretty soon she came and she said, well, you can get off the bed now. Now, she hadn't brought my dinner to me, and I didn't want to say anything to her about, because I didn't want to embarrass her none. So she said I could get off the bed, and I was kind of weak like, but she helped me, and my daughter was there and helped me, and she took me down this hallway again. And she took me in that room where those boxes were on the wall, and she took a key and she opened that box, and there was my clothes. And she told me that I could put my clothes on. Well, I couldn't do it very good, but my daughter helped me and she got me dressed up. And then the nurse said to me, would you like to go to the pharmacy? And when she said see, I really pricked up my ears, because that was what I went in for, was so I could see. So I said yes. And so my daughter took me down the hall to the pharmacy. But let me tell you something. If you ever go to that pharmacy, don't you never take your purse with you, because they'll wipe it out slick and clean. Just as sure as my name's Anna Condie.
Wow.
And this is Jim Neighbor's sister.
Now, is that when you had the cataract operation, or?
Yeah, yes.
And you didn't know ahead of time that that's what you were doing, or
Oh, sure I did.
you were just embellishing the story a bit?
I was just telling you the story. I just made up the story.